Welcome to Unapologetic and Free. We are sisters by blood.
And friends by choice.
I am Shar.
And I'm Lekia. And welcome back to another episode. Of course, we're always excited when we come on and we have a new episode because that's just what we do, right?
Exactly.
And so today's topic, we're going to be talking about setting boundaries and protecting your peace in life, in work, and in church.
Yes.
And we have a very special guest with us today that's joining us. And again, we're always excited about our guests, but I'm really excited about our guest. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. Today we have with us Miss Cindi Salinas. She is a substance abuse counselor for Beat AIDS Coalition and Trust and has been a part of the Ryan White team for almost 5 years. She's also studied international business with a minor in logistics at Elmhurst College in Elmhurst, Illinois. She then became certified in business management, and by 2007, she founded her own business providing marketing and public relations support for new nonprofits and ministries until she started her substance abuse counseling journey in 2013. When she returned to Texas, her focus changed to addiction studies, and she received her counseling intern license in 2016. Since then, Ms. Salinas has worked in various organizations providing chemical dependency counseling support with a focus on trauma-informed care, harm reduction, and psychoeducation, to name a few. Ms. Cindi is also certified in residential recovery management in aftercare establishments, as well as a facilitator for the program Parents Helping Parents. She has a certification in world-class customer support services, as well as a student of Dale Carnegie leadership training. Miss Cindi is also a chaplain at large for the Church at Work. Recently, she has served as a co-chair for the Texas Latina Women's Health Initiative of San Antonio to organize and to recruit people of color to take advantage of HIV testing and PrEP as prevention. Her love of God and people made her career change very easy. She continues to attend college and is an avid learner of all things life as they pertain to the chemical dependency counseling services needed to support those in need. And her tagline is helping others help themselves. Welcome, Miss
Like
Cindi.
that. Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome.
Hi.
I
Hi.
really
Well,
like
thank you for
that
having me.
tagline. No problem. Thank you for joining us today. We're always excited when we have guests.
Awesome.
All right. So today we're talking about boundaries. And so we just want to set a brief explanation about why boundaries are essential for emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness. If you get nothing else from what we're saying today, boundaries protect your peace by clarifying what you will and will not carry, which reduces stress, it guards your mind and emotions, and it helps you live in line with God's wisdom and calling for your life.
That's right. I love it. I love it.
Boundaries are not barriers. They are healthy limits that protect our peace, our values, and our well-being. So that is the premise and the foundation for today's episode. Now, at this time, we're going to do our segment, What Did Social Media Say?
What they say.
So the question that we try to pose questions on social media to give our listeners and followers a chance to chime in and to provide some feedback. So the question posted was, what has been the hardest boundary for you to set? One person said, saying no to people and not allowing people to mistreat me and letting them back into my life. Another comment said, trusting people. Another one said, walking away from people. One said, taking care of self first, then saying no. I said, saying no was one of my hardest boundaries.
And I said, hurting people's feelings. And what about you, Cindi?
I think for me, boundaries is, I always tell my clients that boundaries are not just for keeping people out, they're for insulating yourself so that you can work on you. And that's super important because if you don't have those boundaries, you don't have that kind of that kind of focus to stop certain things and do what you need to do, then you're not going to do it. You're not going to get where you want to get. You will not attain your goals. And so I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but
Okay.
that's what I think.
No, we love it.
Oh, we love it.
Okay.
Because when I think about the saying no part, right? Why
Mhm.
that was so hard for me was because I was a people pleaser.
Mhm.
So as a people pleaser, I didn't want to say no because I didn't want people to not like me. I didn't want people to be mad at me. I didn't want them to say, "Oh, well, she said no." So a little bit of people pleasing, but then that fear, right? And so that was hard for me to start saying no when I wanted to say no, right? And then being able to say no without having an explanation for saying that was a hard boundary for me, right? Not only just saying no, but being able to say no and I don't have to explain why I'm saying
Right.
no.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so good. I'm
Yes.
glad you got to that point because that's so
Yes.
important.
Yes.
When you have a no and then you add something to it or you want to explain, it's easy for you to get drawn back into it because there's feelings, there's guilt, there's shame, there's, manipulation and it all, I mean, it's what we've been doing for so long that when we learn to say no, it can feel a little foreign at first, but it gets easier, it gets better. So
Yeah.
no is a complete sentence.
That's
No,
right.
no explanation required.
And for me, it's hurting people's feelings because I have a tendency to be very blunt and
Mhm.
very I can come across as callous.
Mm.
And so it's like, okay, me setting those boundaries, it I don't want to, because that's never my intention, is to hurt
Right.
anybody's
Mhm.
feelings.
Sure.
So that's, a difficult thing for me.
Well, the thing is that when you start setting boundaries, you're going to hurt some feelings because people are used to having access to you. And when you say no, they get upset, they feel a certain way. It's not anything to do with you, it's absolutely everything to do with them. Because you're doing you and they should be happy that you're trying to focus on yourself and grow yourself rather than try to pull you back into the bucket. Have you ever heard the story of the crabs in the bucket?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. When we're all in it together, we're all doing the same things. Nobody's
Hmm.
getting out. But once you decide that you want to do something else and you start walking away, people will try to pull you back. And that's what those boundaries are for.
That's right. That's good.
That's good. I love it. I love it. Okay. So our next segment. Why do you think boundary setting is such an important topic right now? I am going to go to something that you sent. I'm going to refer
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
And it was you sent it to Lekia and she sent it to me.
Yes.
And it's, what is a boundary? A boundary is the emotional and physical space between you and another person.
Mhm.
Demarcation of where you end and another begins, and where you begin and another ends. Limit or line over which you will not allow anyone to cross because of the negative impact of its being crossed in the past. Establish set of limits over your physical and emotional well-being, which you expect others to respect in their relationship with you. Emotional and physical space you need in order to be the real you without the pressure from others to be something that you are not.
Mhm.
Emotional and or physical perimeter of your life which is or has been violated when you were emotionally, verbally, physically, and or sexually abused.
Mhm.
Healthy emotional and physical distance you can maintain between you and another so that you do not become overly enmeshed and or dependent. Ooh. Appropriate amount of emotional and physical closeness you need to maintain so that you and another do not become too detached and are overly independent. Balanced emotional and physical limits set on interacting with another so that you can achieve an interdependent relationship of independent beings who do not lose their personal identity, uniqueness, and autonomy in the process.
Mhm.
That's good.
Mhm.
Clearly defined limits within which you are free to be yourself with no restrictions placed on you by others as to how to think, feel, or act. And the last one is a set of parameters which make you a unique, autonomous, and free individual who has the freedom to be a creative, original, idiosyncratic problem solver.
Wow. So that was a
Yes.
lot of it,
Yes.
but I like it because if you're tracking, it gives you a clear, different definitions, right? Different ways.
Yes.
Yes.
And just for me, what stood out is the line of demarcation, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I think about that line of demarcation, I think about how the ocean, it only comes up to a certain
Mm.
line, right? And we know
Right.
God a lot, and then it goes back. And for me,
Yes.
with that no, it was learning how to draw that line of
Mhm.
demarcation to be
Mhm.
able to say, okay, this is where the line is that I'm not willing to cross or let anybody else cross. So that was
Yes.
what stood out to me.
Nice.
And also too with that line is not having one foot being in the middle where you
That's
got
good.
one foot on
One
one
foot in
side
and
and you
one
got
foot
one
out.
foot on the yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
No,
good.
it's really being, what's the word? Autonomous. You are being your own self. You're taking care of yourself in your mental health, your well-being, your physical health, your emotional health, all of that. It all comes together. We forget, and I'm going to use this example because I use it with my clients. We get enmeshed. We in a relationship, there's two people, right? I'm gonna use these as two. What this is me and this is somebody or whoever. Anyway, and when you get into a relationship, you kind of come in this way, and everybody's all lovey-lovey, and then all of a sudden something happens, and you just kind of get all twisted up, and in between the both of you, and you forget that you're two individuals in a relationship, right? This could be anything, but I'm using a love example, right? A physical, personal relationship. And so what happens is that sometimes we need to scale back and say, wait a minute, I kind of lost myself in this relationship and I don't want to do that. I want to be able to be myself. And then you set the boundaries and they don't like it. Sometimes they won't like it because they're so used to having you around and just doing things together or knowing where you are at all times, just
Mhm.
any kind of situation, right, in a relationship. And so it creates problems. But why? Because we already went too far into their space and they're in
Good.
our space too. The line of demarcation, it's gone,
Mhm.
That's
and
right.
so we have to learn to be able to say that, I need space, honey, in a nice way, in a loving way. You can speak with love. You guys know how to do all that, but it's time to really reassess. What am I doing? What do I want to do? What do I want to work on? Maybe you want to do something for yourself, like artistically, and you set up a space, and you want to paint or something. And somebody says, "Hey, I need that space because I'm putting all my sports gear there." What do we do? You've got to learn to compromise, but also when there's no compromising, you've got to choose you,
Right.
you.
And that's helpful because even what you were saying about what do I want to do? Something
Mhm,
as simple as, well,
mhm,
what do I actually want
mhm.
to do?
Yeah.
Helps to say, even, back to the no, because
Mhm.
if I don't want to go, then I don't want to go, right? So that's, well, what do
Exactly.
I want to do? I don't want to go to that, right? So,
Yeah.
or I want to do something else different. And so even that, like you said, asking yourself, what do you want to do?
Mhm.
And I think it's also key what you said is us learning how to set those in place at the beginning. So, like
Yes.
with your
Yeah.
example, before we get to right, let's put some boundaries in place. Let's put some
Mhm.
things in place and let's talk
Mhm.
about it at the beginning. And even
Yes.
so that when those things, it won't feel so foreign, maybe, right? Because we talked
Yeah.
about it at the beginning.
But I think
Absolutely.
that's the thing too is like a lot of people don't know, which I guess is as we're talking, if we're talking about relationships, why it will be important to go through the relationship counseling or the marriage
Mhm.
counseling because if you don't know how to start the conversation and how to set those boundaries,
Right.
those are the places that you are able to get the skills or be able to someone to help you have that conversation.
That's really insightful. Sometimes, when you say things out loud, they don't always come out the way you want them to. And so you have the counselor is more of a mediator at times, or an interpreter, if you will, and it helps because you're not coming from, hopefully you're not coming from an angry place. You're coming from a place of, of wanting to understand and wanting to explain. But again, when you set boundaries, when you learn to set boundaries, you can give the other person some leeway a little bit, at first, because it doesn't always happen right away. But you teach them. And I've always said, you teach people how to love you, how to respect you. And so if you don't do that, then unfortunately, um, you're gonna have to learn it at some point, it'll come, it'll happen.
All right. So I have some signs of poor boundaries.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Nope. Burnout,
Ah,
resentment, people pleasing, emotional exhaustion. So
mhm.
I would like to ask you, Miss Cindi, what's the difference between boundaries and rejection?
That's good. Um, I think that we can say, I'm not interested, in hurting you. I'm actually interested in teaching you how to love me, how to respect me, because that's important. I mean, we take people for granted. So obviously they're going to take us for granted too. They're going to kind of walk all over our space, And so it's important that we are able to communicate that in a way that can be received well. And if not, then we'll go to the next part, which is the couples counseling or prayer first, prayerfully, right? And
Right.
yeah, and then maybe counseling or yeah.
But I want to throw a little wrench in there. This is
Okay.
unapologetic and free. What do we think a world would look like and feel like if we actually entered into some type of couples counseling? Like you go out, you meet somebody, right? I'm setting the stage. You meet somebody, maybe, y'all exchange phone numbers. You've had the first date, right? And you say, hey, I really like you. Do we want to see where this goes? And then somebody says, why don't we, will you go to counseling with me? Let's go talk to a professional and talk through how and what we want this relationship to look like. What do y'all think about that?
I think that's a good idea.
I think so too. It
Yeah.
probably would save a lot of, because what I always say, time is the one thing that I can't get back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say that I will be wasting my time if I was entering into, and then later on down the line, but if we had done it in the beginning. But my pastor said this yesterday. He said, it's not that I'm wasting my time, but I could have used that time towards something else. And so if we went with the idea of once we establish we want to move further, then yeah, it'll save a whole lot of heartache
Right.
down
Even
the
if it was a
line.
pastor, even if it was maybe you don't have the funds to go seek out and pay for a professional, right? But even if it was some type of mediator or third party, again, if you have a pastor or you have other people in your church that you could bring in as a third party for y'all to talk through what are the expectations and things up front.
Mhm.
I just feel like that probably would make for a better and more successful relationship. Or it would let us know early on, hey, this is not it. We have different views, we have different life goals. And then again, we save some time instead of going down and 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, and then we're like, man, what have we been doing this whole time? You're muted, but I think you accidentally muted yourself.
I'm sorry. I said, I feel like this. If you start getting to know someone, it's important that you set boundaries early on. This is what I expect. This is how I want to do this. I want to date. I want to be courted. I want to get to know you, for a while before we get intimate, before we start, living together or staying together, because here's what happens. You get into a relationship and it's all wonderful and you're all in love and everything right at the beginning. And 3 months later, this person actually reveals themselves. And now you're in a relationship that you may or may not want to be in. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
Right.
important. And, and this has come from a lot of experience. Where you think, oh my gosh, I love him, he's perfect, and then 3 months later you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? So
Right.
it's important that you take relationships at your own pace. That's boundary setting right there.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
So I have another question since we're talking about this,
Okay.
right? From your counseling experience, what are the consequences of not setting boundaries?
Mm. Well, not setting boundaries can be very painful for you later. You can be it'll bring stress, it'll bring pain, hurt, fear, depending on what you're involved in or who you're involved with. It can lead to depression. Yeah. Lots of different things like that, because if you're not happy, then your spirit is not going to be happy. And until you figure that out, you're stuck. So until you say, no more, we're going to do this way, and he doesn't follow suit, then that's something that you're going to have to deal with. And people pleasing is not going to work. It's never going to work. We could be nice people. We could be kind. We could be good. We're all of those things. But people pleasing is due to self-esteem and insecurity. And so we don't want to project that anymore. We are strong, amazing, blessed, and anointed women of God. And when we stand in that, when we see ourselves the way God sees us and the way he's, prepared us and cultivated us just to be on this earth, to share with other women, to lift each other up. Ephesians 4:29, one of my favorites, right? Let no unwholesome speech come out of my mouth, but only those things to uplift my brothers and sisters in Christ. So what are we doing? If we're not having those positive conversations or those uplifting, it's not always going to be perfect. We're going to have, some stress and stuff. But if we're not really receiving that too,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
then that's a boundary that needs to be upheld.
Right. And to add to the consequences, just from personal experience, consequence of not having boundaries led me into domestic violence, or I was in a domestic violence relationship.
Yes.
And that led to physical abuse because the lack of the boundary that wasn't put in place, right? And then when the no came, or when something happened that my ex-partner didn't like, that turned into abuse, and it turned into physical.
Yes.
And so we have to be careful too, to answer your question. A consequence could lead to physical pain that you could be in from being abused by somebody, because there were no boundaries set in place.
Yes.
And then again, you didn't know what to expect, and then it ends that way.
Absolutely.
Right. And another one would be emotional pain, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Not having that boundary. And, spiritual, not having that boundary, because like you said, you both said you end up finding yourself in positions that you never had dreamed of being in, because you didn't set those boundaries in the beginning.
Man, you guys are making some great points. I said fear and depression to kind of sugarcoat over that, but you fleshed it right out, and that's good. It's so good. Yes, no, it's necessary. We need to talk about these things. I was in a relationship for 17 years, and I had no idea that I had, a narcissistic abusive relationship, that I was in one of those. And 17 years, went by. I think about year 14, I was ready to call it quits, but I wasn't ready to let go. Yeah. And so I knew that it was over. I just couldn't. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I've wasted all these years on this person, this guy who doesn't, put me first like I put him first. And that was a real eye opener after a while. And that's when I got sober. Once I left him, I started, working on me. I started getting deprogrammed, if you will, and working those steps and everything, and getting healed up and letting God do the work. because I had just made such a mess of everything. So it was really good. My boundary was, I gotta go, gotta
That's
go.
right.
Gotta go.
Yep.
Listen.
And back to
Okay.
your right, and
They
back
want
to
to see you.
the emotional consequence, right? It could be something as simple as he's calling you a name you don't like, right?
Yes, calling
Because
you out of your
you
name.
haven't spoken up and said, hey, I really don't appreciate when you call me stupid. Let's just say stupid, right? That leads
Mhm.
to that emotional abuse, that consequence of now this person is calling me stupid and I don't like it, but I didn't speak up and say that, hey, I don't like it. It could be also maybe you need words of affirmation,
Yes,
as it relates to how you want to be spoken to, right? And so
right.
you wanted that word, but then your partner doesn't do it. But again, you never communicated and said, hey, this is something that I expect, what I like. So then you're not getting it. That leads to emotional abuse because now
Yeah.
you feel like you're not getting what you need, but it's because you never even set the boundary or the expectation that this is
In the
even what you
beginning.
wanted or what you
Yes.
don't want.
And
And
you
I
didn't
think
expect any of that.
that's right. And I
Hmm.
think out of fear, like we said, well, I don't want to lose the person. I don't want them to not like me, but we don't realize in the long run, it's still not going to work out good because it still ends up not working. So you'd rather
Yes.
set a boundary, find
Mm-hmm.
out if this is really something the other person is able and willing to do.
Yes.
And when they're not, you find out early versus it taking 17 years or whatever, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Those are discussions that we don't learn to have until way, way later in life.
absolutely.
And I really wish that, that we would have, I don't know, like a circle, a women's circle, where we could share these experiences. And I mean, not everybody's going to get it, but at
Mm-hmm.
least, they'll plant the seed.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And they can't use the excuse of I didn't know
Hmm.
because
Right.
the word says one man sows, and
Uh-huh.
so somebody's gonna come
Sure.
and start watering what has been sowed. Oh,
Yes.
ladies, this has been a really good conversation so
So
far.
far, right?
So
So
now we're
far, yeah.
gonna go into, because we've already touched on it a little bit about relationships, but
Okay.
now we're gonna talk about setting boundaries with family and friends.
Okay.
So my question is, how can family dynamics affect personal boundaries?
Wow, that's a good question. Um, the family dynamics are the ones that set the tone for the dysfunction, the people pleasing, all of that. We grow up in that. We are taught to, no, you didn't really see that. Mommy's okay. Don't worry about that. And later on, we grow up and we don't know how to express or talk about that because, it's always
Mhm.
hush hush. So there's no
Yeah,
boundaries there with relationships and relationship building or any kind of understanding. So we just go right in and we mimic the relationships that we've had as models. Right. And
true.
so when you have a relationship, as you get older, you get to say, this is not what I want. This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I can do. But your family, that's a little trickier. For me, it was easier because when I did my amends, first of all, I was going through the 12 steps again, and I use that as a jumping off point. My mom was an enabler, hardcore enabler. She was like everything I said. She'd say, "Oh, Cindi, that's okay. Let him do it." To my daughters. Well, my daughter was in a mental health facility, being held until they could get a bed for her for drug addiction, right? And so, yeah, because this was generational. So she said, well, she's fine. Let her just come home with me. And I said, Mom, yeah, I'm not going to be able to let you come over and visit her anymore if you're not going to get on the same page with us because I'm trying to heal my babies. I'm not trying. And so if you're not with that, then you're going to have to excuse yourself. And I will let them know not to let you in. And it was, my mom was shocked. She was shocked. She said, what do you mean, Cindi? And I just had to let her know, we grew up in this, Ma. and I don't want this for my kids.
That's
So
good.
here I am trying really hard, to get my baby some help. And you're coming over here, say, oh, she's okay. She could just come home with me. No, ma'am, not doing that. And, it's not that I wanted to be disrespectful to my mother, but that was my boundary. Either you're with us or you can go over there, stay over there because we got
That's
stuff to
good.
do.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it worked out. My mother even got help eventually, and she's doing very well as well. And she's very respectful now. But you have
That,
to go ahead.
no, I was going to say, yes, that's really good. And that's a good example of setting them to keep them out, because
Right.
as it relates to those boundaries with family and friends, it's not having those family and friends in your business when they don't need to be there, right? Whether that's a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, a cousin. And so those boundaries, and friends too, they want to know what's going on. And we have to have a boundary sometimes of what we will and will not share.
Yes.
What information you can
Yeah.
know and you can't. And then when
Right.
they ask us, right, being able to have the boundary, they say, okay, no, I'm not comfortable sharing that with you, or that's not something I want to discuss with you, right?
Right.
That can be
Right.
the challenge, right, when it comes to our family and friends, and just examples of boundaries that we have to set.
So Shar, you and me are kind of alike in that, that kind of brusque way of speaking. When people ask me, well, what is blah, 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 what are you doing now? Or why are you doing this? I ask them instead, why do you want to know?
Ooh. Ooh, I like that. Why do you want to know?
Why do you want to know? Why do you need to know?
Well, that's a lot nicer than how my husband phrases. He says, "How is that any of your business?" But I like the way that you put it. Your way
I
is
like
more
his
softer.
too. Okay, there are times when I use that one too, but yeah, people want to know things, and sometimes it's really none of their business. And it's not that we want to hurt them but they need to stay in their lane. And the only way to do that is to let them know, not today. We're not doing that today.
You're helping, Cindi, already, because I'm like literally saying that to myself. Why do you want to know? Because I usually say it like, well, what's the motive behind why people do what they do? As a psychology major, degree in psychology, I'm always wanting to understand why people do what they do, right? So again, another way, why do you want to know?
Yeah.
What's the reason behind why you want to know what I'm doing or where I'm going?
Well,
and then you get to see people's real motive.
I would love for you guys to try that and watch their face when you say that. They go, well, I'm just concerned. Really? Well, okay.
Are you concerned or are you being nosy?
Okay.
Right.
It just depends, and when people are being generous and loving, and they ask, they'll say, no, that's okay. If you can't share right now, I got you. That's okay. Right? Something to that effect. When they're being nosy, they just look everywhere and get all nervous and blip, 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 tongue tied and stuff. You'll see the difference.
Yes. So what are our thoughts on boundaries with family and friends? This is the little scenario I want to give. When the family member is used to you buying them everything, or they're used to you paying. It could be family or friend, right? And every time you guys go out, they are already just expecting for you to pay. How or what are our thoughts on boundaries and things as it relates to that aspect of having those boundaries with family and friends?
In my opinion and in my experience, I say, okay, I'm not going to be able to pay for everybody today. Boom. That's it. And then so everybody figures out what they're going to do, and when we get to the restaurant or when we get to wherever, I say it again, what are you going to get? But I don't have enough money for all that. So I hope you're okay. That's it. I reiterate 2 or 3 times the same thing, because at the end of the night or at the end of the dinner or whatever, I'm getting the tab for me. Because it's unfair, or you can say something like, oh, well, I'm treating all the time. What do you think about, taking me out this time? Put them on the spot. They don't care, they don't care that they put you on the spot.
Yep.
But it's not really about tit for tat. It's about letting them know that this is uncomfortable. And you're uncomfortable. You think you're uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I keep doing it over and over. That's a people pleasing trait. And we need
Right.
to stop it.
Because it's no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
That's cute. I like that.
All right.
That's,
So let's
yeah.
go ahead. I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Why is it so hard for people to establish boundaries with loved ones?
Because you love them, because there's emotion, because, you want to be kind to them or, but the truth is that you're not doing people any favors when you just let them get away with everything because you're a people pleaser. So it's important that because in doing something for like setting a boundary, you give them permission to do the same. They learn from you and your experience. They learn from that. And when they say, "Oh, that's my boundary," you say, "Okay, all right." You can rejoice with them because they're learning something from you.
That's right.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. And I think too, like you said, it's that fear of you don't want your family to be upset or people to be upset with you. You don't want them, to not talk to you, right? So that again, not always about the people pleasing, but again, we want our family and our friends in our lives. We want to have relationships, but it's healthy relationships, right? So
Yes.
that's why it's hard for me, or why it was hard for me to establish those boundaries, and especially with loved ones, is because again, just that fear that they're going to not want to be bothered or that you won't have the relationship at all, versus being able to function and maintain and teach our family and friends how to be healthy and how to have a healthy relationship by setting those and establishing those boundaries. I still go back to, if we would be more willing to even bring our families into counseling, a mediator, right? It wouldn't be so hard because we're bringing a professional in, or we're bringing a third party in, so that they can say it a different way, right? Because again, maybe I'm not communicating it the right way, but there's somebody else there that can help explain or communicate it. I'm advocating for that. More counseling sessions, family and friends, as often as necessary.
Do you think the family that loves you will stop talking to you because you set boundaries?
No, but fear tells you they're going to, right?
Right. But we need to overcome the fear, right? And step out in faith and say, "Lord, I'm going to set this boundary and you got to help me set it up," And so when that happens, when it happens and you see that people get upset, give them the space to be
The
upset.
process. Yes.
And then let them figure all that out, because see, we've been people pleasing for so long with our families that they're used to having access to us and taking them out and loving on them and buying them gifts and everything. And then all of a sudden you say, well, I can't do that today, or I can't do that right now. And they're upset. They get upset, but eventually they understand, because, life has a way of, God has a way of bringing all of that into their spirit. And I always say, this is what I think. Somebody told me this and I love it. Sometimes, you hear something and you want to reject it. Like, it's not real. That's not for me. That's not, no, is it? No, that's not for me. And I say, this is what I say. Why don't you let it sit on your spirit a couple of days? And let's see where that falls into place. Because immediately we want to reject certain ideas.
Yes.
But when they're for us, they're not going anywhere. They're going to fall into place. Something's going to happen and you're going to be like, "Oh, that's what that's for."
That's good.
So don't be eager to see everything in the moment that you're setting a boundary. Allow them to, what you said, Shar, process that. Let them, feel that, think about it. If they're angry, let them be angry. That's their issue. Your issue is to set your boundary and keep moving, keep growing, keep being healthy, keep your mental health intact and your wallet.
Yes. So we've been talking so far about personal relationships and boundaries, right? And so now we're going to move on to setting boundaries at work. But my disclaimer is that pretty much everything we've already said, you can apply these throughout the 3 different areas. But again, there are different things that happen in different scenarios. So as it relates to those boundaries at work, we want to talk about avoiding workplace burnout. Because when we're burned out, that's sometimes because of a lack of a boundary. We haven't set the boundary, right? So some examples of avoiding workplace burnout, or examples of that would be setting a firm end of the day cutoff. For example, no emails after 6 p.m., right? Depending on what time you get off, you say, all right, this is the time. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to read any emails. Taking a real lunch break away from your desk. I'm guilty of that. I literally have to schedule my lunch break on my calendar.
I did that too.
It pops up, and when the reminder pops up, then I had to, because I'm salary, and so I don't clock in and out for lunch.
Right.
So it was at times in my life where I would just work through lunch, right? But to set those, to avoid workplace burnout and to be able to set a boundary is to be able to set that lunchtime and to get up and leave the office. So even if it's going to sit in your car, if you have a break room, you can go to the break room or physically get in it. Sometimes, y'all, this is how bad it has gotten, but how important the boundary has been is that for me, sometimes I will just get in my car and I'll drive to the next building over and I'll just park in the parking lot. And I might just sit there, eat my food, make a phone call, do nothing, pray, but just to make sure I stick to that boundary of leaving my office and taking a lunch break, right?
That's good.
That's that line of demarcation.
That was the line of demarcation.
They cannot have all of you all the time. The examples that you shared, I do those. I leave work, whatever time I leave work, and sometimes I stay a little longer. There was one day that I had to stay till 11 o'clock at night, and my boss stayed with me and we were working. The following week, I asked for flex time for those hours, and she said, no, because your salary. Okay.
Bet.
So I said, okay, that's fine. So next time they asked me to stay after, I said, I can't. I'm on salary. I leave at this hour. And they didn't like it, but they understood. They had to. Then to the thing with the lunch, Lekia, I also program my lunchtime 12 to 1, Monday through Friday. Miss Cindy gonna take her lunch, and that's all there is to it. Whether I stay, in and eat a sandwich or whatever, or I go out to eat, or just drive around in my car like you've got to disconnect for a little while so that you don't burn out. Because we can get, as people pleasers, we can get very immersed in our jobs and our careers. And all we want to do is get to that other, to that next level, that next, but what we're really doing is we're really just pushing ourselves so hard that other areas of our lives suffer. And so now I don't stay past 5:30. I don't allow anybody to tell me, that I have to do this or that. I know what my job is. I'm a counselor. And sometimes I get behind because, there's all of these interruptions. And that's why I need my hour lunch or my boundaries in place and stuff. Also, if somebody's dumping work on you, that are asking you, can you help me? Sure, I can help you once, twice.
Come on.
That's it. That's all, because then it becomes a habit and then they start counting on you to do their work too. And you can't do that. That is definitely burnout material right there. So,
no, and now at work for me, they're like, oh, my boss knows 12 o'clock, Lakia's gone to lunch. If they're not already seeing it, they're like, wait, we know you go to lunch at 12 o'clock. And sometimes for me too, because I have a personal phone and a work phone, sometimes I've had to set the boundary where I don't even take my work phone to lunch for that hour. Leave it charged. I'm on lunch. So whatever emergency is, if it really is an emergency, they have my personal cell. But for that hour, I have to completely check out.
Yeah.
So I'm not even taking my work phone with me on my lunch break. Shar, what about
weekends,
you? Workplace burnout.
Yeah, on the weekends, you're not working.
I turn that phone off.
Okay, exactly.
For me, because I'm a teacher, and my boundary is, my kids and parents know 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't care if I have my phone in my hand and you
Okay.
send me a text message at 8:57. If it's gonna take me 3 minutes to respond, I'm not responding. So that's one of the boundaries that I have put in place. And I've also had to put a boundary in place of um I don't clock in to 8:30. So if parents are messaging me, before I would automatically respond, but now
Mhm.
I'm like, no, it's 8:30.
Good.
I'm no once 8:30. I don't care if I'm in the parking lot
Yeah.
until I clock in. And then also when I come in the door, kids, I'm like, oh, I ain't clocked in yet. I ain't on the
Yep.
clock. So, and they will literally follow me to the time clock sometimes.
So they can be first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can see where that would be very difficult for you, but you're handling it great because you do have to set those boundaries. You do need to let them know, wait, I'm not started yet. Give me a couple minutes. I have clients that come into my office 5 or 10 minutes before their session, and I have to remind them, I'm going to see you in 10 minutes. I'll be with you in just a little bit. And they'll turn around, okay, Miss Cindy, and they'll turn around and go back because, they feel like we're to get, we're a unit or something, like they have that grace to be able to come in and hang out. And I need that space for whatever it is that I'm doing. And so, yeah, you can do it and you can do it nicely, where you set those boundaries or tell my coworker, can you please not let anybody come into my office until I go get them? Something
Right.
to that effect, we have a new guy and he doesn't know. So, in the beginning, everybody was just walking in, and so I asked him nicely, and we haven't had any problem anymore, but I didn't feel apprehensive about it. But I was kind of like, I hope he doesn't, feel bad that I'm saying this to him. But then that's part of my people pleasing right there,
Yeah.
you know? And so I caught that and I went ahead and took care of it.
Yes.
Mm.
All right. So next we're going to talk about maintaining professionalism while protecting mental health. But I'm going to read this short scenario. I'm going to give Cindi, you and Shar a chance to respond the way you would respond professionally. And then I'm going to read what the suggested thing to say is. Okay.
Okay.
So a teammate speaks sharply in a meeting and assigns you extra work at the last minute. How do you respond professionally utilizing your boundaries?
Okay, I'll
You
go
want me to go
first.
first? Okay, go, Shar. Go.
So the way that I would respond in a
Respond
professional way,
professional response with your boundaries in place.
I'm going to have to respectfully decline what you're asking me to do. I'm not at. I have some other pressing issues that need my immediate attention.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once I finish with that, I
Mm-hmm.
can come back and touch bases with you to see where you are, and should be able to assist you.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good. With me, I would probably, well, the culture at work where I work
Yes.
at, and everybody's really great. And sometimes, I don't think I've ever been asked to take on more than that, except for that one night that I was late, stayed late. But otherwise, yeah, I'd probably be like, you're not serious. You do know how much work I have to do, right? And I just remind them, this is not part of what I do, but I can say it that way. And then they look at me, well, you can try. Okay, well, as soon as I'm done with mine, then I'll pick up yours and let's see. And then they'll get disgusted and just take off, and take their work with them because I can't stop what I'm doing to do somebody else's work. And
Yeah.
it's not okay. I'll help you once I'm done,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to do your stuff for you.
That's right. So I probably would say something on the lines of, I have some other pressing issues and things that I'm working on right now that is not going to allot me the time to be able to work on this. Does it need to be done today? Is there anyone else that you can potentially go to see if they can help you? Because I'm not available at this time. That's kind of just something I feel like I would say.
That's very
just
nice.
on the fly, right? But now reading the answer. So the professional response is, I hear that this needs to be done quickly. I can take it on if we clarify priority and timeline. I can complete X by tomorrow at 3 p.m. If you need Y as well, then I will need support from someone else, or we will need to move another deadline.
Oh,
That's good.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
I
going to remember
like
all
it
that.
because it's not taking on all of it. It's not saying just flat out, no, I can't, but it's putting the boundaries in place.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
I can do this by this time, meaning if that doesn't work for you, then I'm saying I can do this and I can do it by this time, right? Because it says it needs to be extra work done last minute, right? And then the other part, like I said, I'll need support, right? If you're saying you need X and Y, then I'm gonna need you to get somebody else in here to help me do this.
Yes.
But you're still setting that boundary of what I can do and what time
What
I
I
can do it by.
Yeah.
Right. And then again, let them sit with that, like you said, and decide if they can accept that or not, then they can go and try to find somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I like that.
So Miss Cindi, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
How can someone set healthy boundaries at work without feeling like they are letting others down?
How can they set boundaries without feeling like they're letting others down?
Yes.
Okay, so that people pleasing needs to, we need to kind of rein that in, right? And feel very confident about what we're doing, how we're asking, what we're really asking for. You know, if somebody needs to set a boundary at work, like, don't let those clients come into my office, please. That's very straightforward. I try to make it as nice as possible, because I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I also don't want these people walking into my office when I'm on my off time, because normally I'm doing documentation. It's confidential, but my door is open because I'm not in session. So once I'm in session, that door closes and nobody bothers the door. Nobody bothers to, which, I mean, it's understood for me, but that doesn't mean that it's understood for everyone, So yeah, you have to ask for what you need, and in a way that makes sense, so that people will want to give you that space.
Right, I agree.
Or that grace.
Yeah. All right, that was good. And then the last thing or last area that we're going to touch on is setting boundaries in church and ministry, right? And so some of the things as it relates to church and ministry is serving without overextending yourself, being in too many ministries. I am guilty, but I have learned not to overcommit. So that's a sensitive one for me, and a big one of serving without overextending yourself, right? That could be I'm in one ministry, but I'm trying to do and be at everything that's going on. It could be even similar to working till 11 o'clock at night, right? Because I'm serving and I'm overextending myself and I'm not taking any time, especially if you're married, you have kids, and you're supposed to be taking care of your kids and your family, but you're overextending in serving in the church, or again, being in too many ministries. And I'm in a lot of ministries at church. And again, over time, it's taken me time to put those boundaries in place to be able to say, yes, I'm in these different ministries by choice, but I can't allow all of these ministries to consume my time. I definitely can't be in two places at once. I can't do everything that every ministry is doing, right? I'm not the only one. And one of the ministries, I used to be the only one, but even that, God allowed me to get an assistant. And so now even that, I'm able to shift some of those things onto someone else to help, right? But again, we want to be careful of not overextending.
Right. Well, I like when you were talking about going to lunch and sitting in your car. You definitely drew a boundary there. So it's important that you either figure out, what you want to prioritize, because this is something else that I tell my clients. If you're overwhelmed, if you're over extended, then you've really got to sit down and think, which ones are my priorities? Which ones do I really want to do? And which ones can I hand off to somebody else? Because you probably left your mark on all of those ministries, and you've probably trained everyone that needs to be trained. And so maybe it's time to say, okay, you do this and you do this and you do this, because Miss Lekia needs a little time, for her husband, her family, and all that. I'm taking some me time, because you have to water every single area of your life.
Right.
You can't just, and I get it. When I first got sober, I went through Celebrate Recovery. And so I became this professional volunteer. And every time they said,
professional volunteer,
that's what I was. And they'd say, sister, can you come and help us with this? Yes. And sister, can you do this? Yes. And sister, we're going over here. Can you come? Yes. And I was always yes, because I was so grateful to God. I was so excited to serve him, because in that time, I didn't know even who I was. Why would God want me? Why would they want me? But it felt so wonderful, right? And so I kind of got hooked on that. That was another addiction for me. The people pleasing was so, And so eventually, it got to a point where my pastor lady, and this is the truth. My first lady at my church, she called me Sister Salinas, because I already had a sister, Cindi. She said, Sister Salinas, when we going to pray for you, a husband? And I was like, oh, no, Mother Pat, don't you do that. And she says, why not? I said, because I had never enjoyed serving so much as when I was serving on every ministry I could possibly serve on. It was wonderful. I said, if you lock me down to a husband, I'm gonna have to go home at a certain time. I got to make dinner. I got to wash clothes.
It's real good.
I can't just jump up and go, yes, I'll go. Yes, I go. Yes, I go. I can't do that anymore. I said, and I'm just having the time of my life right now. And she says, okay. She says, you let me know when you're ready. I said, yes, ma'am. I sure will. And well, wouldn't you know it? I was ready the week before she went to New York to see her family, and she passed when she was there. But I saw her when she left. She came to me prophetically, and it was just amazing. And so I know she still got her eye on me. But in the meantime, I had to let go of some things, and I do it all the time. As a counselor, I tell people to do this, and then I have to do it too. Or else, what am I have to be authentic, right? And fair.
And you said something about the fact that you said, oh, I was a people pleaser, right? And with that people pleasing, it's a feeling of being needed too.
Yes.
Someone is needing me. And so that's, is where we kind of have a difficult time setting those boundaries, because everybody wants to be needed.
Yes.
And dependent on.
Well, but when we want that, is it love or is it ego that fuels us? Right?
Yeah.
Because we want to, and we want it done just so, and we want to, show up and all that. But do we really need to? If you've put things in place already, then perhaps, it's time to go ahead and pass that mantle.
Right.
And
balancing service with self-care. So the example is you serve every week, Sunday, midweek Bible study, and people also reach out to you for prayer and support, but you're starting to feel drained and short-tempered at home. Some of the boundaries that you can put in place is you can decide your service ceiling of the week, is what it says.
Okay.
And it means the boundary you could set is I will serve in 2 ministry commitments per week. Choose what those 2 commitments are. And then anything beyond that, you rotate, decline, or delegate to someone else.
Yes.
So how it looks in action. You keep Sunday as a fixed thing. So whatever you do on that Sunday, that's your fixed thing.
Yes.
And then you choose either Bible study or an extra meeting, not both every week. And that's what saved my life and my mental health as it
Okay.
relates to even right now is, again, choosing. I teach every other Tuesday, right?
Okay.
Sunday is fixed, right? We go to
Yeah.
church every Sunday, and most Sundays I'm not even serving in any of those ministries. That's my time to sit, right? But then again, I teach class every other Tuesday. And there's another class I go to on Thursdays. Well, now I push back. I don't go every Thursday. Sometimes there's some weeks I could be at church on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, Friday. So I
Sure.
had to incorporate, okay, if this is the Tuesday that I teach, then this week, Thursday, I might not go to this class because I already was there this week and I taught. And so just things where, again, and I got to give my husband a little plug because I can't not take all the credit. My husband helped me get some of these boundaries under control. So where you're like, oh, I won't be able to do all these things. For me, it was a
Yes.
good thing because my
Yes.
husband came along and he helped me to be able to say, no, you
Yes.
can't do all that. You can't be doing all that stuff
Right.
all
Right.
week. And I would feel like, no. But over time, now I'm able to balance and rotate and to navigate all of those different things. So I'm not burned out and
Yes.
still being able to serve.
Well, I want you to know I'm not knocking marriage or any of that. When I was saying that, that was years ago. And I did get married back then, a little later. And so I like having someone to share those responsibilities with. And that's something really important too. Our boundaries, they're not just about keeping, everybody else, at bay or at arm's length. It's also about sharing the distribution of the work, what you can allow your husband to help you with and what he'll allow you to help him with, and it sounds like you guys have a good set of boundaries helping each other,
Yeah.
but that's important because I don't know about y'all, but I grew up in a household where we were supposed to serve everybody, the men first and then everybody else, especially because we were girls. And so that was not, that didn't leave me for a very long time. And still, out of love, I serve, but it's not because I have to or because I was taught that way. It's because I have love to give, and I want to just, serve. But otherwise, there's a limit, to what we can do. We're not God. He reminds me of that all the time. Um,
And I don't want to be.
okay, no, but sometimes we get into that mode, where we're doing so much that, we have to scale back, definitely. And that's what boundaries are for.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, I just wanted to say self-care is really important. So if you're taking on a lot and, one week you teach and the other week, you go to, your groups or whatever, what are you doing for self-care? When do you have time for just me time, for maintenance,
yes.
for just getting all dolled up, or refreshing your spirit as a woman?
Yes. So as far as self-care, I do put a lot of care into my locks. I do have regular hair care maintenance that I go and pay. People say,
Okay.
oh, well, why don't you do your own hair? I'm like, no, this is my self-care. I'll pay
Yes.
because they're going to wash it. They're going to do
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
I do have days where I just binge watch, where I don't do anything. But the self-care in it is that I intentionally plan to do nothing. And that's what I
Okay.
will say. I will say, okay, this day is a day where I'm doing nothing. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm watching whatever I'm binge watching. I'm back to back. And it was an
Excellent.
intentional day of nothing. And that's literally,
Nice.
as Shar, I will call it my
Nice.
intentional day to do nothing. My husband knows, and I'll tell him, hey, I'm in the bed or I'm not moving off the couch. You can come join me. But those are the things that I do to incorporate into my
Nice.
self-care.
Nice. I like that.
It took me a while to get there, but I am.
Good.
So I want to segue into, we're going to start landing the plane. I do want to show that video. So we're going to take a brief little pause so I can get that video ready. And then we will go ahead and kind of land this plane. So
time that we talk about how to stop over explaining your boundaries, because so many people think that their boundaries will be more valid if they explain it perfectly. Nope. So they just keep talking. More details, more reasons, more softening, more reassurance. more trying to make the other person comfortable with a limit that was never about their comfort. And I want you to hear this. Over explaining is often not clarity. It's anxiety. It is the hope that if you say it gentle enough, logically enough, nicely enough, they will not be upset with you. But boundaries are not meant to control other people's reactions. They are meant to honor your reality. And that means you are allowed to be clear without becoming a defense attorney for your own nervous system. No, that doesn't work for me. Or I'm not available for that. I'm not comfortable continuing this conversation. I need more consistency than this. That is enough. The reason people over-explain is usually not because they lack words. It's because they are bracing for punishment. They learned somewhere that saying no would cost them love, approval, safety, or connection. So now they try to pad the boundary with enough kindness to avoid the blowback. But the truth is, healthy people do not need 100 reasons to respect you or to respect your no. And unhealthy people will often push back no matter how beautifully you explained it. That's why the healing, it's not just learning what to say. It's learning to tolerate someone else's disappointment without abandoning yourself. That is real boundary work. So no, you do not need a perfect explanation. You need permission to let your boundary be enough, even if someone does not like it. I will see you soon. Okay, I think it's time that we talk about how.
All right.
I love her.
Loved it.
Yes. So again, I thought that was really good, right on point with what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to talk about some practical tips for establishing boundaries.
Okay.
So the packet that you sent, the very last page has some excellent rational boundary building thinking.
Yes, I love that page. I do.
So it's broken into two categories. So we have the unhealthy belief, and then we have a healthy boundary builder.
Right.
So number one, unhealthy belief. I can never say no to others. Healthy boundary builder. I have a right to say no to others if it is an invasion of my space or a violation of my rights.
So here's how normally, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but here's how we do this. I would like for one of you to read the unhealthy belief, and then the other one reads the healthy boundary builder, so that one of you is, saying the original stuff. Got it? Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Ready?
So Lekia, do you have the?
I do.
Okay. So we'll do the next one. So I'll do unhealthy.
Okay.
It is my duty to hold them together.
I have a right to take care of myself. If they want to stay together as a family or a group, it is up to each individual to make such a decision. We all share responsibility to create the interdependency needed to keep us as a united group.
Ooh. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I can never trust anyone again.
I have the right to take the risk to grow in my relationships with others. If I find my rights are being violated or ignored, I can assertively protect myself to ensure I am not hurt.
Nice.
I will feel guilty if I did something on my own and left my family or group out of it.
Ooh.
I have the right and need to do things which are uniquely mine so that I do not become so overly enmeshed with others that I lose my identity.
Yes.
I'll read the next one, unhealthy. I should do, did you read that one? I should do everything I can? Okay.
Go ahead.
I should do everything I can to spend as much time together with you, or else we won't be a healthy family or group.
I have a right and a need to explore my own interests, hobbies, and outlets so that I can bring back to this family or group my unique personality to enrich our lives rather than be lost in a closed and over-enmeshed system.
That one is so good, right? Because this emphasis is on what we learned that we can bring back to the family instead of looking at it like what we're going to lose if we don't, right? So I like that one.
Yes.
All right. As long as I'm not seen or heard, I won't be violated or hurt.
I have a right to be visible and to be seen and heard. I will stand up for myself so that others can learn to respect my rights, my needs, and not violate my space. I like that one because, I'm all about standing up or not allowing someone to be bullied or for me to be bullied. So, yeah, I like that one.
Good. Aren't these good?
They are. Your turn,
All right.
Shar. Unhealthy.
Okay. So I'd rather not pay attention to what is happening to me in this relationship, which is overly intrusive, smothering and violating my privacy. In this way, I don't have to feel the pain and hurt that comes from such a violation.
I choose no longer to disassociate from my feelings when I'm being treated in a negatively painful way, so that I can be aware of what's happening to me and assertively protect myself from further violation or hurt. So that's like, instead of avoiding it, I'm addressing it head on. And again, I know we all know on here, we have what we say, right? Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So this is great to be able to change what you're saying and how you're saying it.
Exactly.
And let them know, like, I choose not to allow the way that you are making me feel to continue to make me feel that way.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Very nice.
Okay. I've been hurt badly in the past, and I will never let anyone in close enough to hurt me again.
I do not need to be cold or distant or aloof and shy as protective tools to avoid being hurt. I choose to open myself up to others, trusting that I will be assertive to protect my rights and privacy from being violated.
Oh.
I like this. I like the assertive, because I remember a few years ago, I was talking to a group of students, and I had made the comment about that I come across as aggressive. And the student was like, no, I don't consider you aggressive. I just consider you assertive. And I said, oh, I see what you did.
Okay. When I was growing up, Shar, they used to call me stubborn. And one day in church, when I first got sober, pastor said something about just dig your heels in, and be steadfast about what you want. And I looked it up, and it means exactly the same thing as stubborn. But it just sounds so sweet on the tongue, doesn't it? It's a positive, encouraging word. And who doesn't want that? So,
exactly. Yes.
The verbiage is really important. Go ahead.
Yes, not what you say, it's how you say it. Yes. But sometimes it is what you say. The words that
sometimes you have to say it that way.
That's right.
And just let the chips fall where they may.
Yes. Okay, last one. I can never tell where to draw the line with others. That line of demarcation.
There is a line I have drawn over which I do not allow others to cross. This line ensures me my uniqueness, autonomy, and privacy. I am able to be me the way I really am, rather than the way people want me to be, by drawing this line. By this line, I let others know this is who I am, where I begin and you end. This is who you are and where you begin and I end. We will never cross over this line so that we can maintain a healthy relationship with one another.
That's good. That's good.
Those two people. Remember the two in the relationship?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this has been really good, Cindi. Thank you again for coming on.
Of course.
I know we shared a lot of nuggets, so always hopeful that our listeners and viewers will get something out of this. We do like to afford the opportunity, if there's anything you want to share, if you want to tell them anything about what you do, whatever it is, if you have a TikTok or Facebook you want people to follow, we want to give you an opportunity to talk to our listeners.
Okay, well, all I want to say is do your best. One of the things that really empowered me to try to just allow myself to be me 18 years ago was Maya Angelou's quote, when she said, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, you do better.
Better. Mm-hmm.
And that made me kind of step back and go, whoa, I was blind for a long time. I didn't understand, but I do now. And because I understand now, I can do better now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go back and fix anything else in my past or how I did things. I can backtrack and apologize or make amends, but I can do what I need to do now, unapologetically, with a leap of faith, with God at the helm, allowing me to just be me.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that created me, so here I am. And that's what I want. And that's what I want for everybody else, just to take that and run with it.
So where can our viewers find you to follow you?
I'm on Facebook under Cindi Salinas, Cindi Salinas. And then it says Chaplain Cindi in parentheses because I am a chaplain. So.
Hey, I saw you had a TikTok. That's where I found some of you share videos on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I do. But I have a different pen name on TikTok. Yeah. And that's Sugar Portillo, Portillo. So if they want to follow me there, that's fine too. When I was growing up, I had a cousin, they called her Sugar, my sugar, my sugar, my sugar. And I loved it so much. And I didn't have a nickname like that. So when I grew up and I was in that 17-year relationship, I saw the color purple.
Mm-hmm.
And Shug Avery gave me my first Shug. And then I just kind of expanded on that. And it just stuck. And now everybody knows me as Sugar. If you see me with some of my friends, some will call me Cindi and some will call me Sugar. And so it's just a matter of, just being able to reach me whichever way. But I do enjoy that. And I've written some things, and some of them are in my government name, Cindi, and some of them are in Sugar's name. So it's just, yeah.
All right. Well, we always will put the information in the show notes. Again, you guys, we ask that you like, share, follow this, comment. And again, as always, if you have ideas or topics that you want to hear, you can contact us wherever you're watching this or wherever you're following this. And we will try to incorporate those episodes in. And we definitely plan to have Miss Cindi back on future episodes. So be looking forward to her coming back to share and to spend time with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so in awe of y'all doing this. I love this so much for y'all. And thanks for sharing it with me. Thank you for letting me.
Well, thank you for joining us, because we don't take it lightly. When we reach out to people and we ask them and they say yes, we're excited.
Shar, I just got to say, those nails they are gorgeous.
Well, thank you. Nails. This is my self-care.
Okay.
Yes.
Good job.
Faithful self-care.
That's good.